I mean, do you think it could even actually help transform the way we have been looking at commodity growing? Like, of course, it's not going to happen that we are moving our wheat production indoors. But I could also see that maybe a certain stage of a plant on its way to be grown in a field is going through a indoor farm.
Yeah.
Almost like how you transplant, seedlings in vegetables, that you start doing commodity growing like that. I know there are experiments like that in universities, and they are looking at it, and they're also making it more, climate resilient that way, or cutting the time shorter being exposed to the elements, and also helping to reduce actually the inputs on the whole overall story. Is that something you think is a real phenomenon? Where we can actually also look at?
Yeah. So I mean, really, I think Tom, you and Ian and the others have heard me speak to this or write about this as well. But I mean, in the long run, if you look at humanity's needs for nutrients, right? We need to have carbohydrates that we derive mostly from cereals and things like that. We need to have proteins, and that we derive those from plant and animal sources. We need to have various types of vitamins and minerals and things like that. And often we end up getting those from crops and row crops, and from livestock agriculture, as well as most certainly from fruit and vegetables and things like that as well. Mushrooms and fruit and vegetables.
Right.
And particularly the latter, we know, lend themselves to being, produced in controlled environment agriculture. We know that there's a body of, knowledge that we've got, and particularly, epitomized by what is happening in the Netherlands and other places as well. We see this already happening, and so interestingly, what is going on is particularly in the specialty grains area. When I say specialty grains, this is like the old world wheats and the archaic species that people want to consume and things like that. There's a tremendous interest in looking at those being grown in these sort of controlled environments. I think a bigger opportunity for controlled environment, rather than being able to grow. So that I think those things can be done in this horizontal agricultural enterprise that we know. The mental imagery that I present is Norman Rockwell's, picture of a painting of a farm. There's a red barn in the back. There's a pasture. There's a couple of cows. A fellow in big overalls, typically a guy. There's a tractor there and all that. And that's the farm that we think of, and not the sort of a closed environment or the vertical structure or caves, going down, and things like that. And so I think there's a phenomenal opportunity for the controlled environment agriculture to produce and provide the seed. You talked about seed earlier in the introductory comments as well. Producing, for example, quinoa and durum wheat and other things that we've got, right? There's a phenomenal opportunity for people that are involved, because you talked about it, right? You can hasten the process. You can produce the thing in multiple, cycles, rather than waiting for, spring to show up or the summer to show up or whatever. You can vernalize it if you needed to, go through the overwintering process. All of these things can be done in controlled environment, because you control the environment. You can handle all of these things. And I think economic enterprises that can be created as a result of that are phenomenal opportunities as well. So I think, when you think about lipids and carbohydrates and proteins and minerals and vitamins and things like that, there's different things that we consume, and practically every one of them can be produced in a controlled environment. Absolutely, positively. And so there's some being very creative. A lot of people, as you know, and Ian knows this particularly as well, a lot of the controlled environment agriculture jumped on this marijuana bandwagon immediately, right? There's an opportunity, there was a need, and people were ready and available, and they started converting old warehouses and things like that into these approaches to grow these things. And I think the controlled environment agricultural enterprise has a tremendous value-added opportunity to think of as well.